Since those gorgeous indictments came out against Trump, he and his co-conspirators, or Fox, you may have heard of them, have been doing their best to try to muddy the waters. They've had two bullshit defenses for why he should be found not guilty of causing an attack on our Capitol and trying to overthrow our government on January 6th. First, let's show you Trump's lawyer trying to, share those bullshit defenses, and then we'll show some prosecutors just utterly taking them apart.
It attacks his ability to advocate for a political position, which is covered under the First Amendment. President Trump was entitled to advocate for a position, whether that meant going back to the state legislatures, whether it meant engaging in court activity or fighting in court or dealing with the issue from a political standpoint. All of that is protected speech. We're entitled to present our side of the story, which is Mr. Trump absolutely, unconditionally believed that he had won the election. The government in a criminal case has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt criminal intent and corrupt intent. They have to demonstrate beyond a reasonable doubt that President Trump did not believe that all these irregularities were true.
Now watch how easily this prosecutor takes apart Donald Trump's free speech argument. It's like winning a competition against Donald Trump Jr., like a master of your domain Seinfeld type competition, except for you have to not use 8 balls for a couple days.
So he has a First Amendment right to say the election was stolen. He can say that all over the country. He can say it all over TV. He has a right to file lawsuit after lawsuit claiming that the election was stolen and try to stop the certification. However, where he got in trouble is when they assembled these electors in the various states after Joe Biden had been declared the winner by the secretaries of state or by the governors, had them sign a certification saying we are the duly elected and duly certified electors. That's where he's going to argue there was no good faith basis. That's where he's going to say the fraud took place. If I can make an analogy, right? Yeah. I could come on your show. I can say I'm Elon Musk's long-lost son, and I'm entitled to inherit all of his billions and billions of dollars when he dies. I can say that all over the country, even though it's false, even though it's stupid, right? But
that's the First Amendment.
First Amendment, exactly. But if after Elon Musk passes away, I walk into probate court, hand up a document that says, hey, this is Elon Musk's will, and I know it's not his will, and it says I'm his son, and I say I get all his billions of dollars, guess what? Then I've committed fraud, then I've committed forgery, then I've maybe done an attempted grand larceny. And Jack Smith is going to make the argument that that's where they were not acting in good faith, that when they had these false certificates prepared, when they asked Mike Pence to accept those rather than the other certificates, that's where he's going to argue the fraud was.
And now watch how easily a second prosecutor destroys the state of mind argument when it comes to Donald Trump and being guilty for January 6th. This is on Beyond Politics, Matt Robeson's podcast. Check it out.
Does this all essentially then come down to his state of mind and the question of was he acting corruptly?
Yes, there is an element of where they have to prove that he acted corruptly, but it is actually not going to come down to, as many people are saying, whether or not the prosecution can get inside Donald Trump's mind and present a picture to the jury of what he was thinking about whether or not he really won the election. It was clear in the indictment that they're going to put on evidence that he actually well knew that he did not win the election, and that there are any number of different ways that they're going to show that he knew that. And that just makes it a really easy question when asking, was there a conspiracy here to commit fraud on the United States, because he knows he didn't win the election. But having said that, while they have a ton of evidence to prove that, they don't actually have to prove that in order to meet the rest of the elements of the offenses, because even if he believes that he won the election, that doesn't make it okay to get a bunch of electors to say, I was the real electors from Michigan and not the people Michigan says it was. Regardless of whether he actually knows that he won the election, he certainly knows that Michigan didn't think he won the Michigan election. He certainly knows that Georgia didn't think he won the Georgia election. And he knows that they had electors who said, no, we voted for Joe Biden. So when he's part of a scheme to submit electors that say something different, he knows he's doing that, and that is the relevant knowledge about falsity there. Yes, they have to prove that he and his co-conspirators knew that these electors were not the real electors of various states. He has to know that submitting them to the National archives or submitting them to a state body containing false information. He has to know that he's doing that. And really, let's take a second to think about the fact that his lawyer is talking about defending this case by saying that the 45th president of the United States, who had access to the nuclear codes, was essentially a delusional person who did not listen to the attorney general, his White House counsel, anyone around him, numerous state officials, and believed something that everyone else virtually in the country, except for other deluded people, know to be true. But even if he believes that delusional thing, that does not make it okay for him to then submit false slates of electors, or he and his co-conspirators to submit false slates of electors. Even if he believes he won the election, it's not okay for him to solicit Mike Pence to just ignore the legal duties under the Electoral Count Act to open the envelopes submitted by the states and count the votes and declare Joe Biden the winner. There's also another misconception here with respect to the issue of proving what he knew. I've seen a lot of analysis like, this is weak because how are you ever going to get inside Donald Trump's head? I really wish that our journalist friends who cover these issues would actually go pull a set of jury instructions from one of these trials and look at what a jury is going to be told that they need to do in order to determine whether a person had a certain intent. They can go pull the jury instructions from the many hundreds of trials that have been held in these very similar cases. And what they'll learn when they see that is a jury is going to be told straight out, you will almost never be able to know exactly what is in a person's mind. Intent is almost never proven by what we call direct evidence, where somebody writes down on a piece of paper, goes and says, I'm doing this because I don't believe it, or whatever. That intent is almost always proven by circumstantial evidence, and that you are allowed to draw reasonable inferences
from people's actions.
From people's actions.
Donald, your whole life brought you to this. You got away with everything. You're a pampered little bitch. There's nothing that you couldn't do and find a way to bullshit your way out of, find a way for people to cover you who had money, befriend the Roy Cohns and other lowest scum of the world. And so you're not used to this. You don't know what to do. You think you can just bullshit your way out of this one because this is what you've done your entire life. That's not the case anymore. You shouldn't have run for president. You should have gone on with your pathetic, gauche, half-assed life, making money off of a fake name and a fake reputation, but you chose this. You should watch the movie No Country for Old Men.
Let me ask you something. If the rule you followed brought you to this, of what use was the rule?
Ponder your life, Donald. You're going to have a lot of time to do it.